So the first thing you need to do is to forget about the regular food pyramid where you're encouraged to eat the majority of your caloric intake in carbohydrates and keep fat to an absolute minimum. Your body will break down carbs and excess protein into sugar known as glucose, and that glucose will force its way as the first source of energy for both your brain and body, leaving other better sources of energy untapped. And all that excess glucose will be converted into stored fat. So this way of eating will essentially make you fat and stupid. So flip that food pyramid upside down and instead eat the majority of your caloric intake in fat while keeping carbs extremely low. And this will not make you gain weight and become fat unless you eat extreme amounts, of course, but pretty much the opposite. It will turn you into a fat burning machine that uses that fat as the primary source of fuel, as blood sugar and glucose are depleted from the lack of carbs. And this is generally known as a ketogenic diet and requires you to get around 70 to 80% of your caloric intake from fat, 15 to 20% from protein, and inevitably some carbs. You're now tapping into that preferred source of energy, and instead of storing fat, you're now using that fat as energy. And when that fat is broken down, ketone bodies are released to fuel the brain. And let me tell you something, the brain fucking loves ketone bodies, and studies have shown that the brain can run up to 70% more efficiently on ketones than on glucose. So this new way of eating will essentially make you ripped and smart. However, getting into this stage called ketosis can take up to 2 weeks if you've never done it before, so you have to stay consistent every day with the macros. But this is not really a new way of eating, as it's the way humans evolved to eat, and it makes perfect sense from an evolutionary standpoint. And all these processed foods, excess sugars and carbs is a relatively new way of eating in the perspective of the humankind, and it's not a surprise that so many new diseases and cancers has been created recently. Cancer cells literally feeds off glucose but can't get its energy from ketones. And the reason you don't see this kind of diet promoted by major food corporations or pharmaceutical industries is that they would go fucking broke if they did. What are taught in schools and what most trained dietitians are advising is essentially a food pyramid where they want you to eat most of your caloric intake in carbs and only a very small portion in fat. And this is a recipe for obesity, diseases, cancer, and a shorter life. Right, so the second thing you need to do is to forget about the traditional way of eating many small meals throughout the day and instead focus on eating fewer, larger meals and fast for an extended period of the day, preferably for 16 hours, leaving you with an 8-hour eating window. And this will also ramp up the process of getting into ketosis, and this is known as intermittent fasting and is becoming one of the most popular ways of eating, and it's not hard to understand why when you look at the benefits from it. It's super convenient once you get used to restricting the hours you eat on, and it saves you time and effort you can spend doing something else. And fasting or consciously abstaining from food has been used throughout history by some of the greatest people to ever live as a way of improving their quality of life. And Plato, the great Greek philosopher, has been quoted saying, "I fast for greater physical and mental efficiency." So if you don't take my word for it, take Plato's. And indeed, the most fascinating aspect of fasting is the physical and mental benefits it brings. And I'm not talking about minor improvements here. Now, I've talked before about the incredible effects fasting has on the body and how it increases the production of natural human growth hormone up to 2000% for men, which is absolutely ridiculous. And human growth hormone is responsible for muscle growth, fat loss, longevity, anti-aging, cell repair and more. So releasing natural human growth hormone is like the true fountain of youth. And it also brings insane mental clarity. And a lot of research and studies have been made on this topic, where they discovered an extensive list of health benefits to the human brain. And they discovered that intermittent fasting will ramp up that depletion of glucose and use ketones to fuel the brain, which will increase your focus, concentration, ability to remember, while simultaneously reducing the risk of Alzheimer's and Parkinson's disease. And it increases the BDNF, the brain-derived neurotrophic factor, by up to 400%, which helps activate stem cells in the brain to make new brain cells, neurons and nerves. And BDNF is highly involved in your muscles and appears to be a huge reason for why physical workout have such an impact on your brain. And fasting improves neuroplasticity, which is essential for learning and memory, and as the brain ages, it tends to become less neuroplastic. And intermittent fasting prevents this, and you will be able to have a great mental clarity even as you get older. It improves gene regulation by activating a number of repair genes termed VITAGENES, which is responsible for the delay of aging, decreased occurrence of age-related diseases, and prolongs a healthy lifespan. So swapping glucose for ketones as a source of energy could have drastic effects on your overall health and mental clarity. And as if that wasn't enough, it's actually the preferred fuel for the heart, making it operate at about 30% greater efficiency. So this might seem too good to be true, like I'm promoting some limitless pills that will make you superhuman and outsmart everyone like Bradley Cooper in Limitless, but come on, the comparison is inevitable and it's probably as close as you will get.
Di BINARAGA.NET, kami selalu percaya bahwa setiap orang pasti bisa memiliki tubuh yang ideal dan sehat. Dengan subscribe, like, dan share video ini, Anda turut membantu membangun Indonesia sehat dan kuat. Salam jelas fitness, saya JP.